All right, folks, so this is part 2 for week 10. I walked through in the last video some reminders, information, looking at the syllabus schedule, and then the writing post for Wednesday. So we'll start with what's going to be due and necessary for Friday's discussion post assignment. So here are the items for the content of week 10, and I'm going to scroll down to the paper topic post. And so after reading Cosgrove's article, I want you to answer the following questions. So the first, sorry about that. The first is, what do we know or can we find about the author, right? So again, we're thinking about evaluating our sources. How can we determine this is a reliable individual? And also, where did you find this information? Okay, so you may have to do a little bit of digging as you've done in the past. Just supply kind of the information about where you went and what you found. And number 2, what do we know about the publication, which is The Atlantic? Does it appear to be a reliable news source? Why or why not? So again, do some investigating, particularly if you're not familiar with this publication, which is a news magazine, right? So again, why not? And then number 3, I want you to choose one of the hyperlinks included in the article. Where does the hyperlink appear? So if I go to the actual article itself, there are a couple of hyperlinks just to add some detail and clarity and to show research, right? So one right here, here. There are a couple of them, so just kind of give us a sense of, in what section does this appear, or you can give us the paragraph number, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the, 6th paragraph, I went to this link, and so again, this is just part of evaluating our sources and making sure, because oftentimes in websites or blog posts or things of that nature, there will appear to be hyperlinks and they actually don't work. So either those hyperlinks have expired, right? Those websites have expired, or the supposed news source is just creating false hyperlinks to appear as though they are a reliable news organization. So again, we have so much work we have to do just to determine the reliability of a lot of the sources out there, because we're inundated with digital resources, for better or worse. It's great to have that, access to all this information, but we have to kind of double our energies when it comes to investigating them, right? So for number 3, click on one of those hyperlinks. Where does it appear in the article? Where does the link take you? What information is available there? And then, does it appear to be a trustworthy site? So most of them are going to take you to some other website to add to Cosgrove's ideas. So what is the trustworthiness of that particular site? How do we know? So some investigating. It takes a little bit of time to do this and answer those questions. So you can just answer those, number 1, 2, 3. Just use complete sentences, please. And then we get into Cosgrove specifically. So her article identifies a community college that has worked on, on developing an actual food studies program, which I think is really amazing. That's awesome. That sounds really interesting. So I want you to describe the basics of the program. So where is the school? What are some of the classes that Cosgrove has shared that they are offering at the school? What are some of the requirements? And so that's a brief paragraph, 4 to 5 sentences. This just kind of shows that you've read the information and that you can, look back and find these details. Remember that if you are using any quotations from Cosgrove's work, you need to use actual quotation marks and give reference to the people or person for those ideas, right? This is part of MLA. This is to avoid plagiarism, right? So Cosgrove identifies that after the basics of the food studies program, so those basic courses, those basic requirements, students can then kind of choose a different track, a specific track based on their interests. So I want to know, out of those options, what would you choose? What would your path be? So 6 to 7 sentences. This is where you can kind of bring yourself into the conversation. Why would you choose this path? And so that's a lengthier paragraph there. And then finally, in a paragraph, what would you add to this program? If we had something like this at North Harris, what are some of the classes or areas of emphasis that you would include, and why, right? So if you could create a food studies program for our students, for you, what are some of the kinds of classes you would want to teach? So to give you some examples, you can look, if you wanted to do a little bit bit of research, you can look at different schools and just kind of do a Google search for food studies programs or food studies classes, right? To see some of the options that are out there. You would be amazed at some of the classes that are offered and requirements for different programs. Some of them are very specific. They're on, this whole class is about how the use of salt, right, has changed food and economies across the nation historically, right? Salt has made a big impact, as a spice, right? And then some are focused on specific religious foods or practices or specific nationalities or ethnicities, right? The sky's the limit, right? So it would be helpful to look at what other schools and programs offer, but also, this is dependent upon what would you do? Think of your own food culture and your own food choices. What are some of those classes you think would be really fascinating and interesting, right? So I think there's a lot of freedom here, and I'm excited to see what y'all come up with, right? So that's the last paragraph, right? What are the classes, what areas of emphasis, and why, right? Why would this be helpful to an overall food studies program, or why does it interest you? So 6 to 7 sentences. So that's due on Friday. And I put a reminder here that your annotated bibliography is due, right? And this is where please review the guidelines, y'all. Please look at the example. And remember, please, to upload your document in the proper format. Please. And I put a little, note here, like, you've got this. You have done the work. You've been through the peer review process, hopefully, right? A lot of you contributed. So, move forward with a little bit of confidence in this. You've been working hard, right? This is not just some assignment that I assigned at the beginning of the semester and said, hey, this is due a couple weeks down the line. We've been doing work for it. Okay, so some last notes I want to offer are that I have also in the assignments area of D2L opened up a revise and resubmit section. Give me one second. So you'll see that there's a revise and resubmit folder here. Once you click on that, give me one second. So these are the instructions, which aren't quite visible yet because it's not available for y'all to see, but once it's open, you can look at all the instructions. And it's just an opportunity to revise and resubmit some assignments, and I've listed the assignments here. So the annotation 1 or 2, the reading journal 1 or 2, the annotated bibliography once that is due and returned to you, and then the final version of the paper portfolio. So this is just an opportunity because there are different approaches to teaching, especially when it comes to writing. And I am of the school that believes that our work is rarely fully done. We can always go back and work to revise, edit, update, make changes and adjustments. When it comes to my own work, even things that are published, I would go back and change in some way. So this is kind of taking that notion and applying it to the class where, if you submitted something, earlier in the semester, you might do this differently now based on what you've gained in terms of writing skills, maybe the feedback you received from me. Any number of things could change the way you approach an assignment. You know more now than you knew earlier, right? So this is giving you an opportunity to go back and rework and revise that. You can earn back half the credit you lost. So I give the example, if you submitted an assignment that was ultimately worth 20 points, and for whatever reason you received 10, so 10 out of 20, right? So you got a 50% essentially. If you revise and do everything, you attend to all of the guidelines, you have really worked to catch any of those grammar mistakes, spelling issues, any of that, you can earn up to half the credit lost. So you lost 10 points from that assignment, half of that being 5. So instead of having a 10 on that assignment, you would now have a 15. Okay, so that, on the surface, it may not look like a lot, but that can really change the overall view of your grade, right? Especially when it gets to something like the annotated bibliography and the paper portfolio. So this becomes especially important for any of you who, for whatever reason, you did not submit an assignment when it was originally due. So you may be dealing with a couple of zeros for those things. Now is your opportunity to submit that work and get some credit for it, because some credit is always going to be better than no credit. And this is not me saying, oh, I'm punishing you for, you only get half the credit you lost. This is me saying, hey, you did the work or you are going to do the work, you deserve something, right? But I put a note in there that I am not going to take the time to look over anything that has not clearly gone through some revisions, right? So if I open a document and I see that the formatting is all wrong, or you've submitted it in a format that I can't open, don't waste our time, right? Don't waste your time in going through and doing some work or posting it in general and then not do the work to then get that credit back, right? So this is me offering that opportunity. And you'll notice when you see this on D2L, it is in the assignments portion and it does show a due date, but that does not mean you have to submit anything. If you're really comfortable with the work that you did and you got good grades, or grades that you're comfortable with, don't worry about it, right? If you're a person who wants to do as much as possible to get the grade you want in this class, even if you got an 18 out of 20, you can still submit that assignment again. It has to be done perfectly, essentially, to get some of that extra credit, but I'm not going to fault you for that. This is open to anybody who wants to either submit work that they weren't able to originally, or submit work just because they want every possible point. You're grabbing at every possible point because you want that grade. I don't want any of you to look back this semester, look at your grade and see that you have an 89 and wish that you had been able to get one more point, because I don't round up grades. So this is your opportunity to know that you've done absolutely everything in your power to get the best possible grade, or the grade that you are seeking, right? So I'm just putting this out there. It's only available for those assignments that I've listed, so take a look at that and know that you have until, I believe the actual due date is going to be December 4th, and that's a hard deadline. There's no 24-hour grace period. It's just you can submit all of those assignments, or you don't have to submit any, right? So this is just to earn back part of the credit lost. Okay, so if you have questions about that, make sure that you look at the instructions that are included in that assignments folder, but know that you can submit every single thing or none at all. My preference would be that you not submit all of those assignments at that last minute time and date on December 4th, because it takes me a lot of time to grade and get that response to you. And you'll probably want to know before then how your grade is looking. Okay, so just some FYI there. Let me make sure that I've mentioned everything in my notes and everything that's going to be included on this week's quiz. It looks like it. And another just general reminder, some of you are taking 2 courses with me. Please make sure that you are logging into both course sections on D2L and completing assignments for both. This won't apply to all of you, but to some of you, this is going to make some sense. So thanks, y'all. I mean, we're in week 10. We are so close. So keep up your energy, keep everything going strong. You can do this. Okay, take care. All right, good luck this week. Bye.